Well, I'm super excited about the next few weeks. I hope you are too. And we're going to get other people excited about God's Word and about coming to worship, joining with us in corporate worship as a church. I ask you to turn to the book of 1 Samuel tonight. And I am I know I've said it 2 or 3 times, very, very excited about starting this sermon series through 1 Samuel. And we're going to go to a strange period of time in history. In fact, the story of 1 Samuel begins in the time of the Judges, which was a very difficult time spiritually speaking. Judges chapter 21, in the last verse of the book, tells us what it was like during that time period. And it says, "In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." And if you are halfway familiar with the book of Judges and have heard that before, you know that's not a compliment. That is it's a low point, spiritually speaking. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. 1 Samuel chapter 1 is where we're going to pick up, and a lot of the events, if you're trying to do a chronology, you hit Judges and Ruth and 1 Samuel, there's some overlap in that time period. The story about Ruth and Boaz took place during the time of the Judges. And so when the book of Judges ends and then Ruth begins, it's not following a chronological order like, oh, Judges is over with, now we're looking at Ruth, and now that's over with and we're looking at 1 Samuel. Some of the events in Judges have not happened yet when we're in the first chapter. In fact, Samuel is born before some of the major events in Judges are recorded. And so that's interesting. We're going to go back, if you like numbers, if you like little fun facts, about 1100 BC is the time period when we're in chapter 1 of 1 Samuel. About 1100 BC, and we're going to find ourselves nestled in the beautiful mountains of Ephraim. Some people think that the location here is the New Testament Arimathea. You've heard of Joseph of Arimathea, Nicodemus's sidekick. Not sure if that's correct or not. I think where we're talking about, and it says in verse 1, Ramathaim, it's probably the Ramah that we see mentioned in verse 19. So Ramathaim is the longer version of that title there. First thing I want you to see tonight, we're going to talk about the family of Elkanah. And no, that's a strange name. We like to hunt Elkanahs, right? We have Elkanah hunting season. That's probably not it. Elkanah is a unknown figure who plays a major role in salvation history. He has 2 wives, and one of them is named Hannah. And as you know, in biblical times, women are not viewed as very important figures. But what you're going to see in the first few chapters of the book of 1 Samuel is it's the lowest status Hannah who plays the major role in the book. First thing I want you to see this evening is the family, and let's look at the setting here in the opening verses. Elkanah's origin. There was a certain man of Ramathaim, Zophim, of the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. This man went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Also the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priest of the Lord, were there. Well, there's some important things that were told here in the opening verse. We see where Elkanah is from. That's how the book starts. A certain man, Elkanah. We have no idea who he is before this. We see the town that he's from in the region. Elkanah's hometown is Ramathaim, and it's probably Ramah that you see in verse 19 in the same chapter. And he is known as a Zuphite, which Zuph identifies his clan, not his tribe. That's not one of the sons of Jacob. That is a clan, and he's probably an Ephraimite, and there's a little bit of a not discrepancy, but maybe a confusing thing that's said. In 1 Chronicles chapter 6 and 22 through 28, it says that Samuel's a Levite. And so there's a little bit of we wonder, is Samuel a Levite or is he an Ephraimite? And there's a lot of different ideas on what that means. Could be that Hannah dedicates Samuel to the Lord, and that's how he is known as a Levite. Could be that Hannah is a Levite, and this guy, Elkanah, is an Ephraimite. And so I want you to make you aware of that. But he is from the clan of Zuph. A clan is like a family group. So there's a lot of families in a tribe, and they would identify those by that way. So his tribal identification is Ephraim. His name means God created. And you see his lineage there. He was probably a man of means, which means that he probably owned a lot of land. He probably had a lot of possessions. He was probably well-to-do. He had 2 wives. That's another indication that he was a person of wealth. Hannah was probably the first wife. And then, like other biblical characters like Abraham, like Jacob, like others, took a second wife because his first wife was barren. Hannah had no children. Her name means favor with God or gracious woman. Peninnah's name etymology is a little uncertain, but some have said that it means fruitful woman. Another writer said that it meant pearl. So he has no children with Hannah. She is barren, probably his first wife. It says in the text that he loved her, much like Jacob loved Leah, much like Abraham loved Sarah. And you know the story of Hagar. We have a similar dynamic in the family. It never fails. The Bible doesn't just condemn these men for having more than one wife, although we know that the biblical model is to have one wife. One man, one wife. And they took 2 wives, and what we see over and over again is when they do have multiple wives, they have multiple problems. I'm not making a joke, and that's not supposed to be funny or anything, but there is rivalry in the household when it's just not intended to be that way. And so there's going to be problems. So he has children with only one wife. Notice in verse 3, this man was religiously devoted. Some of the things that you're going to see in 1 Samuel, especially I'm thinking of the character Eli and his sons, just because they did it and just because they stood in a certain position doesn't mean you should do it. It doesn't mean what they were doing and how they did it was correct. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. And so you have to be careful when you see the behaviors in 1 Samuel and automatically think, oh, that's how we need to do it, because that's how they did it. That's not necessarily correct in this time period. There is there's spiritual trouble in Israel right now. And so, but this man, he tries to be devoted. He shows evidence and signs that he wants to worship. He went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the, and this is an important phrase that you see for the first time in the Bible. It blew my mind when I read that a couple weeks ago. The Lord of hosts. This is the first time you see that phrase in the Bible, and then it's used over like almost 200 times in the rest of the Bible. This is the first time you see it. And Lord of hosts being mentioned here is a pointer for you to see that God is the God over all spiritual powers. You say, what do you mean by that? Well, I'm telling you this, that Satan answers to God and God is sovereign. All of the things that are wrong with society and life, religious life, worship life in the time of Israel, God is going to look over that, and he is going to, his plan, he has a plan to address all those things. Just because people have abandoned the Lord of hosts is his name, which means that he is God and sovereign over all things. Even the little disobedient and wickedness that goes on in the religious and the social life of Israel. Judges is horrific. I think y'all studied it a few months ago. But the time of the Judges is a horrific time of immorality, of false worship, of all of these things. Right is wrong and wrong is right. Everything is twisted up. And it's much like the time and day and age that we live in today, where wrong is applauded and right is put on the back seat. Right, people that try to do things right are accused of things that they didn't say or they didn't do. There's all kinds of twistedness in this time, much like what we see today. But I promise you this, and I've had this thought over the last couple of weeks. I may stand alone, but if I stand faithfully, I don't stand alone. God is with me. I may be surrounded by people that don't want to do this and don't want to do that and say this and say that, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It means that there's just a shortage of faithfulness and faithful people right now. And I guarantee you we're living in a time period like that where people don't even know the difference between right and wrong anymore, and honestly, I don't think they care. In verse 3, this man was religiously devoted. The Lord of hosts in Shiloh. By the way, that's the house of the Lord is in Shiloh. Jerusalem has not even been dreamt of yet. Jerusalem is not a place yet. Jerusalem, in fact, belongs to the Jebusites in this time period. And so Shiloh is the place. I don't know if they had a wood-built temple or if it was a tent. I have no idea. But that's where God's house and the place of worship was at this time in Israel. It was at Shiloh. And we're introduced to some major characters here in this verse. It says, also the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. So now we've met some people, haven't we? We've met Elkanah. We see that he has 2 wives. We see that he has no children with Hannah, but he has some children with Peninnah. Now we're introduced to another couple of characters here. Eli is the priest. He has 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas. Interesting that, and this tells you a lot. Eli would be a spiritual buffoon. You're going to see that. A spiritual buffoon. He is sitting in the office of priest, a very important office, that he is a poor leader and he leads the people in the wrong direction. He leaves his sons in charge of it. And by the way, interesting, his sons' names are Egyptian. I have no idea. I don't know if that is a little signal to you that the people that sit in the offices of priests are not who needs to be sitting there. And we know that because of their behavior. You're going to see in a couple of weeks as we work our way through this, that they are just an embarrassment. They are a spectacle of someone who should be sitting in the positions that they're sitting in. Hophni's name means tadpole. Not trying to tell a joke. Phinehas's name means the Negro. Not trying to joke. I don't know what any of that means. I do know their names are of Egyptian etymology. And they are ill-equipped and unfit to be sitting in these positions. Notice in verse 4 through 8, we're introduced to really the problem of the family. There is a problem in this family, and I already kind of pointed you towards that. It has a lot to do with the two wives. Notice what it says in verse 4. Whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife, to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. So we're told about some things here. Elkanah was a good man. He tried to be a good man, and he tried to distribute enough sacrificial animals and meat to all of his family so that they each could offer a sacrifice, a yearly sacrifice, and be able to do that to the Lord. And for Hannah, he gave a double portion. It's interesting. Literally, it means two noses. Probably talking about two sheep noses, two goat noses, a double portion, two animals is probably what that means. He loved her, and his heart was breaking for this young lady who he loved. It says there that the Lord had closed her womb. If you want to read more about stuff like that, you can look at Isaiah 66 and verse 9. Children are a blessing from God. And everything is a blessing from God. We take for granted the things that we have in our lives, but I want you to know that no child of God should ever have the attitude that they deserve everything that they've gotten in life, nor have they worked for and earned everything in life. Dear friend, a child of God has a much more humble attitude, and they look to God as the source of all the blessings in their life. We see here that it was the Lord that had closed her womb and made her barren. But I hate to spoil it. He also is going to open her womb. And it seems that because of the way the story goes, and I don't think this always is true, but because of the way the story goes, it seems that the Lord had closed her womb for a purpose. Because he was going to bring a deliverer to Israel through this lady Hannah. In the meantime, Hannah has a tormentor, doesn't she? Look at what it says. It says, her rival also provoked her severely to make her miserable because the Lord had closed her womb. And so you have the extent of the torment. It says that it was severe. It wasn't just something little, it was something severe. And notice that it was the duration of it. Notice in verse 7, year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, that she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Dear friend, this wasn't just like a thing that happened on the way to Walmart and you got your feelings hurt. This wasn't something where you just passed somebody on the sidewalk and they kind of bump into you and you got your feelings hurt. This is something that happened year after year after year, and Hannah goes and she wonders, what is wrong with me? What did I do to deserve this? And Peninnah is always provoking. You are barren. You are good for nothing. God doesn't love you. God's done this because you've done something wrong. Can you almost hear Job's friends in that too? About how Job's friends try to tell Job, oh, it's your fault. This is why this is happening to you. Little Peninnah doesn't know anything about what she's talking about. And Hannah, a faithful woman, she doesn't know either. But I want to point you to something very important, and it's called faith. What you see in verse 7 is a picture of faith. Although she can't see the results, wasn't it this morning when the people said, we want a sign. We want to see it before we believe. We want to see results before we believe. Oh, I'm not doing that. Hannah saw no results. Yet year after year, she kept coming. She didn't know. She didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't see the result. She didn't have a sign. No angel visited her and told her, oh, hold on. You know, a little different than the Abraham and Sarah story, wasn't it? Because God had told them, just hang on, it's coming. Hannah doesn't know. You talk about some faith. She just keeps on coming, and she's faithful. Look at verse 8. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? He gives 4 questions. One is about weeping. You see, it's taking an emotional toll on her. One is about not eating. She's fasting. She's lost her appetite. Another one is grieving, and that word is interesting. It's used in Deuteronomy 15:10, and it's used there about a grudging spirit. She's grieving, a grudging heart. And then the 4th one is he offers himself, doesn't he? He says, "What about me? I would love. Can I be enough for you? Could it be okay for you not to have children? Can we be happy without you having children?" I don't know about you. It's a heartbreaking picture. And what you see here is the heart of a loving husband. And some of you don't have husbands. Some of you have wives. Some of you don't have either. But I want you to know that there are people around you that love you and care for you. And we need our fellow human love to comfort us. And that's what Elkanah was providing for her, is that support. We hear the advice sometimes, well, what you need is a stronger support group in your life. I'm not against that. But a stronger support group wasn't the answer to this problem. Because what you see here is the inadequacy of Elkanah to meet her needs. As well-intentioned as we often are with our loved ones and our friends, and we like to come alongside them and comfort them, I'm going to tell you, we fall short many times of being able to provide for someone's needs. There's many people that, well, I just need to seek a support group and I'll be okay. I need to do this in my life and that will fix the problem. But dear friend, all those things fall short. There's a clear limit to what those things can provide. And you're going to find that's not the answer to this problem. You're going to deal with difficult situations in your life. You already have. You already are right now. I know some of you are in the middle of some difficult situations with family members, with personal struggles in your life. And if you haven't found out yet, some things can't be fixed. In other words, you can't fix them. They're beyond the scope of human fixing. People can't fix some things. But it doesn't mean that they are unfixable. It doesn't mean they can't be fixed. It means that we can't fix them. But I know someone who can. God can fix it. We've got to depend on God in our life. Let me ask you this. How's your faith doing? Do you forget sometimes who has the answers? Is your faith a mainstay feature in your life? Or is it more of a secondary fixture in your life? In other words, when everything else fails, well, maybe I need to start thinking about God and see what God can do. You got it backwards. The first place you should go is God. Because people can only do so much for you. It's God that can really do it. So notice this though. And we haven't gotten the resolution to the problem. We're going to see that in the next couple of weeks. We're going to see God's going to fix the problem. And I want to leave you with this, is that the true power to affect change in a person's life doesn't come from their position of status. It comes from their relationship with God. And I don't care if you're a slave. I don't care if you're an oppressed woman in 1100 BC. I don't care if you're a poor person in 2025. It's not going to be your position in society that's going to be able to change not only your life, but other people's life. It's going to be because of your relationship with God. Because He can meet all the needs in your life. I'm going to ask our musicians to come. We're going to have a song of invitation. Let's stand tonight.